Salute, Knicks Nation. The streets are buzzing. Lots to talk about tonight. Huge, massive news broke today. We're going to get into it. Mitchell Robinson out until December or January, right? Looks like at the earliest. We'll talk about what that means, of course, what next for this ball club, right? Next man up mentality, right? But we're also going to talk about Jaylen Bronson tonight. Jaylen Bronson's season preview. That was the intention of tonight's live stream, but of course today's news took over that. But have no fear, we will honor both topics and conversations tonight. Of course, after we've talked about the Mitchell Robinson news, the second part of tonight's live stream will be all about Jaylen Bronson, right? And what a season ahead it's going to be for JB. Let's get straight into it, guys. Salute. Hope you're doing well. Great to be with you. CT, your host. Smash that like button, like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're going to have a huge conversation tonight. Obviously, as the news dropped today that Mitchell Robinson is set to miss, a large part of the start of the season, right? And we don't know really, depending on how the rehab goes, when he will be back, right? So obviously it's next man up. But what is in store for this front office, for the team? How are we going to play? Right, I've got lineup data. We're going to go through it. I'm always prepared for the topics, and of course, man, it's going to be tough, right? It is really tough news to take. Obviously, Mitch's health is really important to the ball club and the way we set up defensively, of course. So what are we going to do, right? We're going to bring in a center sooner rather than later. The Knicks feel confident with who they have right now, and we'll talk about the different options that the Knicks realistically can put out there on opening night. All of those things, fam. And of course, we'll get through your questions, comments, as much as possible. Appreciate everyone for joining us. Salute to the chat and salute to Replay Squad as well. Once again, guys, smash that like button. And we're going to, like I said, end on a positive note for the second half of the live stream with a Jaylen Bronson season preview. I've been really looking forward to this one. We did a Julius Randle one first up. This is our second one tonight. We're going to get your thoughts on a big season ahead for obviously our captain, right? MVP levels, Jaylen Bronson, right? Coming into his third season as a New York Knick, man. And he is hype. He is ready to get into it, as am I. But of course, man, first part of the live stream tonight, we'll be talking about what do we do? What do we do now with Mitchell Robinson's, absence to start the season, guys? And salute Susan, Walter, Buzzer Beater, Howard, Daniel, and Luke. How are we all doing, guys? Salute to Replay Squad as well. So, for what we've heard, obviously the first to report was your own Weitzman, and he also reported that the New York Knicks, weren't completely stunned. They weren't surprised, and they knew obviously in advance. We don't know how early they've known, but if you kind of look at their moves this off season, right, it kind of looked like they were tried to swing some trades. And we'll hear from Ian Begley as well, but yeah, he echoes the thoughts of that the New York Knicks have known about this, about Mitch's recovery, conditioning, man, and damn that Joel Embiid as well. I try to keep my my cool about what happened in the playoffs, and it was tough at the time because we're all caught up in that playoff buzz, and when Mitch went down, it was just we had to just keep going. But now you got a bit more time to reflect, and it just really is tough because Mitch made a good recovery. He beat the odds to get back in the season and really help this team out, and it was heroic. And Mitch does show a lot of heart, and he means a lot to this team. So first and foremost, prayers go out, to Mitch and his rehabilitation, his recovery. We're all rooting for him, and we want to see him back healthy, right? But we've got to turn the page right now, and we might, we'll talk long term as well. We might need to turn the page on the center situation for the long term. But for now, obviously the Knicks are down to a few options, and these options are on screen right now. And the Knicks, to get specific quotes. This is from Steph Bondy, is that the Knicks per league sources are confident in the roster's depth and versatility to compensate for Mitchell Robinson's absence to start the season. He's not going to be out for the whole season. He's expected to be back around the December-January period, but obviously you got to take some of that with a pinch of salt, fam, because really it's all up to the rehabilitation and just how quickly that progresses, obviously. But so where we sit right now, the Knicks are confident in their roster's depth and versatility to compensate. That's the reporting from Steph Bondy. That's where the organization kind of feels right now. Where I feel, and we'll get your thoughts, I'll read out some comments, but how I feel right now is obviously part of me was expecting Mitch to be, miss some time, whether it was the start of the season, during the season, towards the end of the season. It's not a complete shock or surprise to me, just because, it's such a serious injury. He's 7'1", he's a big man. The foot, the ankle, they're always tricky injuries to deal with a big man, guys. And, I think the organization was always scouring the market and always looking at different ways. One of them is they drafted a center, and I want to talk a bit more about Ariel Huck-Porty tonight. Obviously, the other one was they brought back Precious, which we all, breathed a sigh of relief when they did end up signing and bringing Precious back, because that was important. The other one was the most recent move, which was signing Mook Morris to a camp invite, and I felt like that was more significant than some other people thought. And obviously, they knew about the Mitch news, right? So I don't feel as confident maybe as the organization does long term, but to get by for a couple of months, I think we'll be fine. I think for a couple of months we'll be fine, but definitely it's not something you want to run through an entire season with and then get into a postseason with just these guys on screen, right? I think we do need a more permanent solution, and I do know that, and I do feel like the Knicks think the same as well, right? So obviously they're putting on a good front because, one, you don't want to act too desperate. You got other organizations, other GMs going to be looking at this, man, licking their lips, trying to see if they can, coerce more assets out of the New York Knicks for a big man, whether that is Clint Capella, Valanciunas, Walker Kessler, Jalen Duren, Nick Richards, the many, many names we'll talk about tonight. But for one, I think the Knicks are wise to think that they can get by for a few months. But yeah, I'm not confident long term. So what are we going to do, and who is the best target available? We'll talk about that as well. But Al Tango, I see you, 718 Fresh. What's up? Great to see you in the building. Everyone get your comments in and let me know your thoughts on this. How do you feel about it? Obviously I'm higher on Huck-Porty than some others. I know more about him because he played in my city professionally, and I do feel like he's very serviceable. But there's a difference between that and being trusted for 20, 25 minutes. So preseason's going to be big, guys. It really is. Now these guys are going to get opportunity, and I guess the silver lining in this is that the Knicks are going to have time to prepare. Remember when Mitch went down mid-season, it was literally next man up. Precious had to step up in short notice. Isaiah Hartenstein minutes had to ramp up. He was recovering from an injury as well. So now we've actually got time to prepare, right? And with that said, right, we've got some data, and then we're going to go through it and all of that. But obviously, just to preview, the second part of tonight will be all about Jaylen Bronson, diving into some numbers and a big season ahead for Jaylen Bronson in the second part of tonight's show. But for now, we've got some lineup data, right, courtesy of NBA.com, right? And I want to bring this just to the forefront regarding Precious Achiuwa, because I do think Precious is pretty much a lock to start opening night, right? Yes, there's going to be some small ball, and we'll talk about that a lot tonight, guys, and moving forward. That's going to be a big factor in these few months. Obviously, some of these good lineups, but that we can do with small ball and the different versatility, that the Knicks feel like they have. But this is from last season, right? There's two key things of note that you're looking at right now. These were the 5-man lineups, the most used 5-man lineups from last season. Two things that stood out to me is that Precious Achua was a part of the second most used 5-man lineup from last regular season. Guys, the second lineup that you see on this list played 189 minutes, included Precious Achua. However, he was at the power forward spot, and that was with Isaiah Hartenstein playing, right? The Knicks won 9 games, lost 4 in that stretch. They had a plus minus of 5, right? So obviously Precious is going to be playing 5 now. We're not going to have Isaiah Hartenstein, but we are going to be, welcoming back Julius Randle. We are going to be welcoming an OG and obviously Mikal Bridges to that. So the key thing I look at that is that Precious is going to be ready, right? He got a lot of reps last season. He's no stranger to danger. He played 189 minutes in the second most used 5-man lineup from last season. The second most noteworthy thing that I'll point out is the final lineup on the list, right at the bottom, highlighted for you to see, right? The 10th most used 5-man lineup from last season was with Precious Achua, but Precious was playing the 5. It didn't have Mitchell Robinson, and it didn't have Isaiah Hartenstein. So that was a lineup of Josh Hart, Brunson, DiVincenzo, Miles McBride, and Precious Achua, right? It played 13 games together. It was a 7 wins, 6 losses record, played 78 minutes. So the 10th most used lineup last season had Precious at the 5, right? Unfortunately, it was a plus minus of 1.4, I mean, take that with a pinch of salt as well. But that's just some perspective for you guys all to see from last season, right? Precious was a part of the second most and the 10th most used lineup. So I think we are going to call on Precious obviously a lot to start the season. I think he's going to be the solution that they feel can step in for now. But obviously his strengths aren't going to be at the 5, but he's definitely built for this moment. I think he's ready to step up. He's a young player and he's got a lot to show, a lot to prove. Remember, he's on a 1-year prove-it deal. He doesn't have any future guaranteed money, right? And he's from New York. He's from the area. I think he's built for it. And I think he can really help this team pick up early wins until Mitch recovers. Right. So, yeah, what are your early thoughts on that, guys, as we talk about some of the other options coming up now? So, yeah, some of you guys, obviously the criticism is going to be out for the situation and Mitchell Robinson. And, Mitch has his huge, staunch fans and supporters. I love everything Mitch stands for, but obviously health-wise, is counted against him, and durability, and I think the New York Knicks will be looking for the future, whether it's this season or sooner rather than later, to get a permanent solution, right? So I guess it's a two-way conversation. How do we get by early in the season, and then what do we do long term, right? What do we do long term, guys? Do we pull off that earlier trade, see how the season starts first, and then maybe start talking to some teams now? There's a couple of things that I mentioned before, and that other teams will feel like we're desperate, so you don't be calling Danny Ainge right now as the news broke. You don't be calling other GMs saying, yeah, what about that center? They're going to fleece you. They're going to absolutely try to fleece you. So for those that, might not agree with the Knicks' opinion right now, or where they feel that they're a bit more okay with the center, options to start the season, just think of it that way, is that, you don't want to act desperate. And so, yeah, the spotlight turns to all these guys on the screen. Huck Porty, 4 years pro experience. You might not be as familiar with his game, and that's okay. You will become familiar. Obviously, he's going to get plenty of preseason minutes. He's going to play. Huck Porty. He's 7 feet. He's a big body, a traditional center. It's exactly what we need. He rebounds the basketball at an elite level. He was the best offensive rebounder in this entire draft class that just passed. So rebounding is his strength. You will get to see that. Where he needs to obviously adjust is the speed of the NBA game. coming from overseas to the NBA, acclimatizing to his new teammates, all of those things. But there's going to be some time. There's going to be training camp, preseason, and all of that. Ariel Huckporty, drafted the New York Knicks. I talked about it all last season. They were high on him. They selected him for a reason. They know what he can do. He's along the lines of his game is along the lines of Isaiah and Mitch in terms of he rebounds, he protects the rim, he sets hard screens. So, we'll get to see how he can, fill in, how he can, really give this team what it needs. Obviously, returning face, Jericho Sims. And I'm just going from left to right now. Jericho, man, what more can I say that hasn't been said? I think Jericho, his New York Knicks career, has come down to this for this season. Again, he's not on a guaranteed money beyond this year. So he's playing for an NBA future and he's playing for his career as well. I think what counts for Jericho is familiarity. He's, been in New York for so long now. He knows these teammates. He knows Tibbs and what Tibbs wants out of a Jericho Sims. So, he's had all that to go with this offseason. And I'm really rooting for Jericho, although I'm not as confident that he's a solution long term. Like any player, I'll get behind them, man. I'll be rooting for them from day one, right, for this season. These guys are it for us right now. I don't think the New York Knicks are going to swing a trade before the start of the season because of the reasons we said, they already knew about this and what was going to play out too. Howard says Jericho will start opening night. Precious won't play the 5, so you don't see that happening much. Buzzabita says death taxes Mitchell Robinson on the injury list. # Eastern Conference Finals. Right. Great support, Buzzabita. Appreciate you supporting the channel always and giving us your thoughts on that. Right. Mitch, yeah, it's an unfortunate situation, but let's hope he gets back, man, and plays a big factor in this. But yeah, you can't. I understand where fans are, differing fans' opinions sit right now because, you want to depend on a player, but they just shown that they just can't stay healthy. Unfortunately, once again, we go back to Joel Embiid and, that dirty play that he did, right? It was despicable at the time, man, and it's really costing us. But, Mitch is focused on his rehab, and I hope that, he comes back during the season and gives his team a huge boost, man. 718 Fresh says, now that Mitch is out, Knicks need to sign Chuma Akiki over Morris. We need more defense on the floor now. Sorry, Big Mook. So that's your thoughts on that. I do think Mook will stay. I do think they need that extra bit of reinforcement in the front court. But look, Chuma Akiki's been in the league a while too, and he's young, enthusiastic, athletic. Defensively, he can really help as well. Offensively, he hasn't really got much yet. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting, these camp battles, fam. Don't forget OG Anunoby, and we'll get to him, can play the 5 a little as well. Julius, obviously, after Precious. But I see as Precious as the safest option. And look, things can change. Guys could grab the spot in preseason. Sims might come out and just look like a different player. I don't count anything out anymore in New York City because we've seen it before. We've seen the rise of Linsanity. We've seen a player come from the end of the bench and give us something. We've seen what Precious could give us last season. We've seen little bits of little sprinkles of OG and Randall at the 5, but not enough. And of course, we haven't seen Ariel Huckporty yet in real NBA minutes. But there's a lot of different options that could play out. Mets Nick says, what's absolute? We're missing that 5. Mitch cannot be counted on. If we do not fix that issue, we will come up short when trying to win that chip as well, man. It is a tough situation. Appreciate you for the comment. Luke says, perhaps once teams start falling apart by mid-season, a trade will be more feasible. That also means someone getting up to speed with the Knicks style of play. Yep, I agree with you on that one. What's up, Danny? Salute. I think a mid-season trade is still very, very likely. And when I say mid-season, it could come as early as that December period, fam, as well. And if you missed it last episode, we did some different lineups in terms of some small ball. Right after that news broke of Tibbs, giving that interview with NBA.com, and I think it was timely because he knew. He knew by then. The New York Knicks knew that Mitchell Robinson was gonna not be available for the start of the season. Right, we're just finding out today, but the New York Knicks knew. Right, so this is some shooting data on a Precious 5-man lineup. Right, if Precious does start opening night, this is a preview of what we could see of him and the rest of these new faces as well, with Bridges and OG, being able to really stretch it out a little bit more floor spacing. Also, it's key to note that Boston will be out without Kristaps Porzingis to start the season as well. So guys do factor that in an opening night. Precious Achiuwa will definitely be able to match up against Al Horford. The small ball units, I think that Boston, put out there as well. And obviously, Precious played a lot last season. Once again, he was a part of the second most used 5-man lineup. But playing alongside Hartenstein, unfortunately, had that little bit of rock, that security without Randall in that lineup, but with Hartenstein. But he was also the 10th most used lineup, which was 78 minutes. Not a huge sample, but not something tiny either. 78 minutes for 13 NBA games is a solid sample. And that was at the 5. That was a small ball together with Hart, McBride. And that could give you a little bit of a preview as to terms of why the Knicks feel more confident. Is because our perimeter D has got stronger, fam. The New York Knicks perimeter D now with options, Bridges, Miles, Deuce McBride, Hart. You've got obviously different options that you could throw out there. OG Anunoby guarding the perimeter, Dante DiVincenzo. I mean, the New York Knicks perimeter defense has got so much stronger as well, but obviously our center situation has got weaker. So yeah, these guys are really, really important on screen. So let me get through some more comments. Paula, what's up? Salute. Great to see you. I think Luke says Sims should have a breakout game. We'll see. Paula says he needs to play better, period. It's like having Frank on the floor with no offense. I think defense should be the main focus for Jericho, and just being in the right position at the right time. Dermot, what's up? Says Nick's going to kick butt. OG at the 5, and on D, Randall at 5 on offense as well. Yep, that's something we could see too. And I'm just going to flick over and look at this other lineup with Chenzo, with Devo at the coming into the starting lineup. Right, I'll flick that over now. And obviously this is without Precious, but you insert Dante. This could be the other opening night kind of main used lineup that the Knicks go for. And that is basically what Dermot said. OG or Randall at the 5, offense or defense, just depends. OG likely to guard the 5 defensively, and I think Randall at the 5 offensively to space the floor out as well. So yeah, I mean the Knicks are in a strong position still to win 55 plus games. If Mitch is out for the whole season, we'll address it. Like, we're not going to run it into the season, and sorry, we're not going to finish the season with just these guys on screen, fam. It's simply how do we get through the grind? Every season there's going to be bumps along the road. But yeah, it's set up for some pleasant surprises, and I think Errol Hukporti is the great unknown. I've already spoken on and, pretty much reported that the Knicks scouted him throughout all last season, came to Australia, Walt Perrin, Knicks assistant GM, one of the best draft minds in the business. He came to watch Errol Hukporti live. They liked what he brought to the table, to this team, rebounding and toughness. But to a certain extent, is he ready to play heavy minutes? Obviously, he's a rookie. So I hear that argument. But people do need to know that Errol Hukporti has played professional ball for many years. He's not a draft pick coming out of college. He's not a collegiate draft pick, right? He's played with grown men for multiple seasons. So, right, his body is seasoned, right? His mind might need adjusting to the NBA game, but his body is ready for the NBA game, right? And then obviously, yeah, Jericho, man, he's actually had a full healthy off season. Jericho Sims has been healthy this off season, and he's really been working on his game. So we could be pleasantly surprised by that. But yeah, I think Mook Morris, guys, got to grab that. He's got to grab that final spot, I think. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if they cut Landry Shamet and kept Chuma Okeke and kept Mook Morris. Kept Mook Morris and Chuma Okeke is probably most likely to get cut or be signed for Westchester. For the guys that were upset about Skapinsev, I think it could have been a number of things. He got a guaranteed deal, or he got a deal with Boston. Maybe he chose to take that deal over the New York Knicks. Maybe he saw there was more of an opportunity. We don't know yet. But I don't think Dmitrio Skapinsev, for as promising as he's looked, I don't think he's the solution either for the New York Knicks defense. You may as well go small. Because I tell you, Skapinsev is not a defensive-minded center, right? He's got offensive game, but he's not defensive-minded. So if you're trying to fill the void of Isaiah Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson, right, you can't really replace them with just an offensive-minded big man. You may as well play Julius or OG at the 5, What I think is going to help the New York Knicks is just the rebounding, toughness, setting good screens and boxing out, and protecting the hoop. And that's up for Precious now. That's up for Sims, Huckporty, and OG, and Randall. So yeah, Clint Capella, I'm not really high on that deal, but I don't think that's likely, fam. The New York Knicks kicked the tires on it. I know a lot of fans are buzzing about it because it got mentioned by Ian Begley, but I think it was mentioned in a past tense where the Knicks had discussions for Clint Capella and the New York Knicks didn't get a deal done. One reason why I think it's still very unlikely is that Clint Capella is earning, I think, a significant salary. I think it's $17 million. So the New York Knicks, as everybody knows, has to send out more salary than they take back. So if we're looking at our roster right now, I can't see how the Knicks send out $17 million and send out more than $17 million. It's going to have to be Mitch, and he's injured, so that makes that trade very difficult. And if you're Atlanta, why are you taking on an injured Mitch? So yeah, all of those reasons, I think the Knicks are doing good PR. I think, put on a good front, stand pat, trust the guys you have, next man up. We know guys have played up in size. This is a lineup with Josh Hart. Obviously, Hart can rebound as well or better than power forwards, right? We don't want him playing power forward much, but obviously with OG and Randall, we're okay. But he can add to the rebounding, as the 3. He can contribute to some of the loss of rebounding with Isaiah gone, with Mitch gone. So it's going to be a team effort, I think, for everyone, guys. Continue with your comments. I'll get through a few more, and then we'll look forward to a Jaylen Bronson conversation. And then this one is with Mook Morris as well. Also going to help out with some offense, floor spacing, and some rebounding as well. I think it's really important Mook Morris stays. There were some people trying to downplay the Mook Morris pickup, but I was looking at it like the Knicks were happy playing Bogdanovic 15 to 20 minutes as that gunner off the bench. Mook Morris is younger in age than Bojan Bogdanovic, and he's also more athletic, more tough, and more durable. So if the Knicks were comfortable playing Bojan Bogdanovic 15 minutes, I don't see why they couldn't find, 10 to 15 to 20 minutes for Mook Morris in these different lineups. And if you connect the dots, the signing just sort of came out of the blue. And then we find out about this news that Mitch is going to miss time. So it's kind of like the Knicks are we're working backwards, but the Knicks have been knowing about this for a minute, and they did ink Mook Morris, I think, to a deal. I think it's just insurance, fam, and I think he'll make it. I really do. Let's get through a little bit of other news as well. Yes, look, Skapensev is young. He's got upside, and look, maybe the Knicks will regret it. But there's going to be, I think, some more trusted options that we have with Sims, and he was always going to be behind Precious and Sims, in the depth chart. So we have an official time change for the Charlotte preseason game as well, fam. For those that were planning to attend or tune in, obviously Charlotte, the first preseason game, man, is coming up, October 6th, and the time has been changed to 5 p.m. Now, it was originally 7, and now it's changed to 5 p.m. early tip as well. So we can do our post game a bit earlier after that one. It's going to be great. The first Knicks preseason game, man. I'm ready. I'm ready. I've been ready for a while, and I'm ready to get into the Jaylen Bronson talk a bit later. And obviously, yeah, the key bit of news outside of the Mitch timeline is that the Knicks Pro League sources are confident in our roster's depth and versatility to compensate. Right, remember, Mitch out for up to December, January period. So, Mitch, if he kills his rehab and he comes back, on time or earlier, great. But they don't hand out championships in October, November, December. They do it in May, June, July. So I think, the Knicks are just got to get by. And I think each guy's just going to have to pick up a little bit more slack and get to it. Fam, bring the defense, bring the ruggedness with that. So let's see what other comments we have here. I like the confidence that Dermot has. 718, not as high on Jericho. Not trusting him at the 5 spot too much. David M, what's up, my guy? Ed, salute. Howard says, all Knicks fans, Mitchell Robinson averages 53 games a year. That's the number. Yep. Thank you for the stat. Best ability is your availability, and unfortunately, look, this isn't a new injury. It's a carryover. That's the way I'm looking at it. If Mitch was to suffer a brand new injury in season, I think that would probably spell the end of his Knicks tenure in terms of long term. I still think the Knicks, he might factor in their future plans, maybe as the backup, maybe as the starter long term, if he can stay healthy. But I think this season is going to be make or break, I think, for Mitch. David says, I have faith that Huck Porty could give us at least a solid 10 minutes. I agree with you on that. I think maybe even a little bit more. I think fans will see that he's, serviceable, maybe able to eat some extra minutes defensively. Yeah, Howard agree, not high on Clint Capella on that one, but I think the Knicks were just exploring options with him being experienced. And two, Precious's 2 biggest pluses, shot blocking and rebounding, says Howard. Paula says, would love to be surprised by Sims playing better. I've never seen that from him, but I hope he turns it around, and that would be great for this team. No doubt about it. I think it's always going to be next man up. Precious stepped up last season. Can he do it again? But this time we've got actually a bit more help. We've got Julius healthy. We've got OG. We've got Mook Morris, assuming he'll be there. We've also got a young up-and-coming center rookie, Ariel Huck-Porty. And look, Ariel might not even factor in early, but he might get a lot of value out of preseason minutes, G League minutes, and get up to speed. Maybe by January, February, March, Ariel Huck-Porty, if you think about it, that's 6 months from now. 6 months is a lot of time for a young player's development, getting in the gym, being around practice, getting used to the schemes, all of those things. I think that could help, Huck-Porty out as well with the time. Salute, Michael Drake. Great to see you. Unconscious Zone says they could literally scheme around the kid with the different lineups. How do you see us matching up against Boston? Let us know. Will, great to see you, fam. How you doing? Ready for the season? Old Head says Jericho Sims is our starter, hoping Leon surprises again with another deal, says Old Head. So you're backing Jericho Sims in to be huge for us. You know, he definitely does some really good things, Jericho, in terms of setting screens, perimeter defense. He can kind of, you know, come out and he's more switchable. You know, and I'll bring this lineup data up again because that reminds me, I want to mention something about Jericho, fam, and that is, so it's not on screen, but Jericho was actually part of the 12th most used lineup. So basically 2 below the final one where Precious played the 10th most minutes. It was a part of the 10th most used lineup. But the 12th most used lineup was Hart, Brunson, DiVincenzo, Precious and Sims. So Precious and Sims together played 10 games together, was 5-5, but a plus minus of 12.6 in those 63 minutes, fam, as well. So there you have it. The 12th most used lineup last season was Jericho and Precious for 63 minutes. The Knicks went 5-5, and it was a plus minus of 12.6 in the plus. So could we see Sims and Precious a bit? Probably not as much now with OG and Randall. But that just gives you an idea that those two were actually part of the same 5-man units, man. For a minute, that was a little bit of a surprise to me. But look, man, all these guys coming in with some experience. It's time to step up. You know, it really is. And I think let's not discount OG playing these 5 minutes as well, because he did shut down Joel Embiid for important stretches. And he did also, it did open up the New York Knicks offense, you know, floor spacing. And without just trying to spin a negative into a positive, right? Because losing Mitch, it's a negative. But what can come from that is our offense can get stronger, right? You know, and this isn't a hot take, but, you know, our offense is better with Mitch not on the floor because we're going to have more offensive-minded players, fam. So, you know, where do you see the New York Knicks capitalizing? I think this is a big one. I think maybe Mook Morris in there a little. If that's not your cup of tea, obviously this one, the Dante one, man. I mean, this is our death lineup, right? If I'm to choose one death lineup from what we saw last season, this is it, fam. You got Dante shooting 44% from the corners, man, way above league average, 90 of 203 attempts for his career. Then you got Julius Randle and Brunson now, legit floor spacers. And obviously OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. I mean, if I'm trying to close a game out against Boston, you know, let's say we have a 6-point lead, you know, Boston's coming back in the game. Precious maybe, you know, it's not working, or with Sims or Hukporty, it's not working. We need to close the game out and get faster. This is the lineup to go with, you know. Bridges and DiVincenzo in the corner. No one sagging off of them. Nobody, right? Both shooting close to 43% combined, right? And then the other guys as well. So with, you know, the unfortunate circumstance of not having Mitch opens the door for the New York Knicks, right, to turn offensive firepower, to turn offensive juggernaut, potentially, fam. Howard says Mook Morris will give you 15 a game, and he may get some technicals, but he'll give you savvy, but he's got the guile, the guts, and he can hit down the occasional knockdown three. Agree. Mitchie might have to lose some weight, 718. You know, that is the that's something long term. I think that'll be a part of his rehabilitation. Fam, getting up and down. The big men with those injuries, man, it does take a bit of time, extra time. I think to get over those ones. Um, and obviously, like I said, the heart lineup that we had as well. But this is my bet for opening night to start. Right. Yes, Tibbs looks like he's open to doing this small ball now, and we will see it. But I think, is he going to be ready to do it right off the tip? I don't know. I think he's going to start. I don't think he's going to be able to resist starting a centre. Whether it is end up Sims, it might be him. Whether it is end up Huck Porty if he has an amazing preseason. But it's most likely going to be Precious Achua, I think, to start opening night in Beantown in Boston. If I'm predicting a lineup right now, I think this is the one. I think Precious starts at the 5. He played minutes with Hartenstein last season. As we see, fam, once again, I want to reiterate that Precious Achua was a part of the second most used lineup in minutes-wise, 189 minutes, fam, for this 5-man unit. This specific 5-man unit with Hartenstein, Josh Hart, Brunson, DiVincenzo, and Precious. Now, obviously, there were so many factors that went into that. With Hart starting, we didn't have Randall, we didn't have OG at that point, or at many points. With him missing some time as well, Brunson's floor spacing was big. Obviously, Hartenstein was an animal for parts of the season. But what's positive is that the Knicks went on a 9-4 run in those 13 games played and 189 minutes. Let's look at some 3-point percentage. The Knicks shot 35% from 3 with that lineup. The Knicks shot 83% from the free throw. Nice rebounding numbers, obviously. Couple of good rebounders on the floor. And the Knicks were a +5 in plus minus. So once again, Precious is ready to play plenty of minutes. Whether he's going to be effective at the 5 or not, that's going to be something that we're going to have to wait and see. But I think we will be a little bit more switchable. When it comes to switching guys, OG can go high. Pressure could switch out him on the 4-man and vice versa. So that could be something that we'll see as well. So yeah, old head Porzingis is not going to be available, fam. Porzingis is out for months. I think a similar timeline. Porzingis won't be back until at least December, I think, from what I've seen. Luke says, I believe Sims will get the start. Tibbs prefers playing the traditional to start it out. Yeah, I could see it. I could see that. He's definitely been able to give Sims some opportunities. He definitely made him situational when it wasn't going well, but he was willing to, to give it a go. But yeah, I don't like Clint Capella, so I think as we continue this conversation and we run it into the next topic, guys, and that is the Jaylen Bronson season preview, smash that like button. The Knicks streets are buzzing. I just want to mention, about, basically long term now. So ideal world, the Knicks run it into the season. We don't feel the pain from missing Mitch too much. We win a lot of games, and when a center becomes available, we pull off the trade while, teams feel like we're not desperate. I still feel like Detroit something to look at. They've got plenty of options. They've got Beef Stew, and I know the new Knicks beat writer for The Athletic, James L. Edwards, as well, who I've spoken to, and he's mentioned that the Knicks had interest in Isaiah Stewart as well. The Knicks have had interest in Jalen Duren previously, and I think there might be some interest there still. And the Knicks' relationship with Detroit is really good. So I think that is a really good option to look at. And then I think Washington, it's funny, the two teams that we have their draft picks, right? That could help facilitate and grease the wheels on a move, guys. Washington, we have their pick. We could just give it back to them and basically unprotect it. or Detroit. You know, they're bad. They're going to want an extra pick back. We could give them that extra pick back as well. And obviously with Washington, it's Jonas Valanciunas, fam. They've got the young center in Alex Sarr and the draft pick, and they're gonna, invest in him heavily. So I think Jonas Valanciunas is going to be, a piece that they're going to be looking to cash in on as well. They're the two big things I'll be looking at. Danny Ainge and Walker Kessler, we've been down that road before, man. I'm not holding my breath, He would be a great option, and I'm hoping something could happen with him because he's young and he could be something long term. But I'm not holding my breath when it comes to Danny Ainge, that's for sure, fam. Buzzer says bring Ewing back. Hopefully he can come back as a coach at least, get something out of Sims, get him working with Huck Porty. Fam, that's a good shout. Obviously, we do have shout out to Mark Bryant, the new big man coach. Man, he is going to have his hands full working with these guys, with Precious, Sims, Huck Porty, mostly, fam. Walker Kessler demanding a trade, Buzzer, would help a lot. And I think he's kind of voiced that to the front office, in public, in private. I think he's spoken to the front office of Utah, and I think both would prefer a change of scenery, is what has been reported. So stay tuned with that. I think Utah will be looking to lose a lot of games as well. So yeah, should the price come down for Walker Kessler and be 1 first-round pick, I would jump on that. Nothing more than that, because I think we could find some options somewhere else. And then outside of those guys, the other rumored targets have been Nick Richards with Charlotte. But look, it would be a welcome sort of boost, but I don't think Nick Richards is a long-term thing either. Think about next season. Right, we're all focused on this season, and Mitch, isn't healthy. But let's say we did move on from Mitch. Are you confident that Nick Richards is the long-term future? I'm not. I think he would be a stopgap. He would help right now, but I don't think he'll be long-term. So I think the Knicks will be looking for more long-term stuff, long-term targets. Jaren Jackson Jr. out in Memphis. I know the Knicks have been fans of him for a long time. Let's see what happens in Memphis, fam. I mentioned Portland. That's something to keep an eye out on as well, because they have 4 big men, man. It's incredible. They've got Donovan Clingan, DeAndre Ayton. They've got Duop Reith, and they've got Time Lord Robert Williams as well. So Robert Williams' salary, I don't see that as a really easy trade to make. It's going to be tough, man. It really is. Salute Fabian, what's up? We're just sort of wrapping up our conversation about the news today and the Knicks options moving forward. I know Leon Rose will make a trade in season at some point, but I feel like we can get by just to start the season out, and we've got different versatility, different options as well. I do think we're going to suffer a little bit defensively with the rim protection, but I don't think we'll lose too much rebounding. I think Julius is a double-double. He's a 10 rebound per night guy. Precious can rebound really well. Sims and Huck Porty can rebound. So I think we'll be okay rebounding. Rim protection will suffer a little. But the big thing is offense. A huge opportunity for the New York Knicks to play smaller and faster and a more offensive-minded, kind of like Indiana. I think you want to look at some of your competitors, fam. Boston and Indiana are the blueprint, because, they both made the Eastern Conference Finals, so that's factual. But the other thing is that Boston and Indiana, they both play 5 out. They both play offensive-minded. They play new age basketball, which is positionless. Get up and down, move the rock, hunt the easy shot. Basketball's a simple game, right? Find the open man and get the best look that you can get, right? We might see numbers where it's 121 now. The New York Knicks average 121, and we give up 115, right? As long as we win, we win. We know playoffs it's going to slow down a little bit. To Howard says Jericho or Precious, you're playing 3-on-5 with those two. Yeah, I don't think we'll be seeing those two much together. There's just too many options with Mook, with Randall and with Precious now. So yeah, before we move on to JB, I'll also just mention, yeah, so for the cuts, man, I feel like Chuma Okeke will not make the roster. And then I think it'll definitely be out of Keita Bates-Diop or Landry Shamet. One of those two is going to have to be cut. The easy contract situation says it could be Mook and Shamet, and Okeke, and Keita Bates-Diop just makes it. But yeah, I do feel like definitely Okeke won't make it, and then I feel like Keita Bates-Diop or Landry Shamet might just be the other one, right? Keita Bates-Diop has guaranteed money, so it's going to be fascinating, man. Does that mean that the New York Knicks still might pull off a trade to start the season just to help the numbers out? I won't be shocked, but I don't think we're going that route. I do think that we're probably most likely just going to cut Landry Shamet or Bates-Diop. But I personally want Mook Morris to make it. I think his rebounding, his size, and his floor spacing will help us out. Buzzer says we need to take advantage of Porzingis being out for Boston. Yep, definitely. I think to start the season, man, it's going to be so even. I think look out for some dark horses, fam, and we'll obviously tie that into our big preview. But I do think Orlando could start the season really well. They're a strong team. I think Indiana, are bringing back continuity. They might start the season really well. And Boston might not start the season very well as well. So without further ado, let's switch on over, fam, to the man of the hour, the man of the off-season, Jaylen Bronson. Right. He had this whole show dedicated to Jaylen Bronson. But of course, the Mitch news broke, and we had to talk about that, of course. And we have talked about that enough, right? So let's focus in on what can we expect? What do we want to see? What's going to happen with Jaylen Bronson's third season as a New York Knick? Is it going to end in championship glory, right? And he's going to be up there with some of the New York Knicks' greatest ever players, if not the greatest player ever, if he can lead us to a championship this season, right? Whatever happens this season, man, I'm expecting another better year. I'm expecting bigger things. I'm expecting greater things from Jaylen Bronson, because that's what you do for greats. You hold them to a high standard, right? And if you look at the numbers, fam, we'll focus on a few things. Bronson's career to date on the bottom right corner, right, in the blue has been the plus minus. So last season was Bronson's most successful season in his career for a plus 512 on the court, right? Had to shoulder the load, the scoring, keeping the team together through adversity, injuries going down, deep playoff run, new pieces integrated with a trade. All of those things, Jaylen Bronson held it together and obviously grew as a player and exploded, and took his game to another level, man. Top 5 MVP, first time All-Star, second team All-NBA. Absolutely incredible rise for JB. He played the most games outside of his fourth season, where he played 79, the last season for Dallas. Had a big playoff run. He did miss a couple games mid-season for us last season, but finished with 77 games played. So durable. He's there when you need him, right? He turns up. He plays hurt. He plays injured. And we'll talk about his minutes and his role. But just reflecting on his career so far, games played, it's been upwards. Minutes per game, it's been going up. The points per game scoring, 28.7 last season, right? 4 points, basically 4.7 points higher than his previous season, right? Almost a 30-point per game scorer. His rebounding numbers went up as well from his previous season. And so did his assist numbers. Went from 6.2 to 6.7 assists. So Jaylen Bronson's numbers are going up every year. Can they go up even more? right? I'll answer that and my thoughts. I do think the assist numbers are going to go up, fam. 6.7. I think with better shooters, more options, I think naturally you could see the scoring maybe plateau a little, maybe sort of level out, stay the same, and then maybe the assist numbers go up a little bit more, man. If he can average 7 or 8 assists, man, first team All NBA, All-Star point guard once again, right? It's written in stone. I think that Brunson will be able to do whatever he wants this season. We're going to look at the shot chart in a minute, but obviously that's the tale of Brunson's career. Games are going up, minutes, points, assists are going up every single year, fam. So Buzzers hit us with a super chat. Appreciate you for the contributions. Says, what is Brunson's ceiling defensively? CP3? Drew Holiday? Man, great question. Defensively, because I think a lot of highlight has been on offense, but definitely not Drew Holiday. And I'm one of the biggest Brunson fans, but I don't think we're gonna see that. Drew Holiday's a big man. He's 6'4.5" or 6'5". He's just got physical tools to be a better defender. But I think Brunson can definitely be better than CP3. As your body matures and you get older, your mind also gets better and matures. And I think defensively, we saw smarts from Brunson last season, taking charges, getting in the right positions, knowing when to be more aggressive defensively and, maybe pick up that extra foul when your team really needs you. I think Brunson does have to make some tough decisions, on the court, being that scoring option that we needed last season. So I think he probably couldn't be as aggressive, defensively as he would have liked to be. But definitely somewhere in between, man, CP3 and Drew, I think, and just be more serviceable, defensively. We'll talk about his steal numbers. Last season, he averaged basically 0.9. So on the left, on the white column on the left is the last season's numbers from Brunson. He averaged 0.9 steals. So if he could get that up to 1.5, 1.4, that would be excellent. We do have more backup point guard help, which is really key. But yeah, I think, and like I said, when I'll do this with every player in these episodes, I want to talk about what they need to maintain first, and then I'll talk about maybe what might improve. So I think what we'll see maintain is that death by 1,000 cuts offensively. You see the shot chart, fam. Basically, the dark blue is the higher the percentage, higher above league average, and the lighter blue is the lower percentage at league average. So it's basically league average or higher everywhere. And specifically the floater, just right at the foul line, the dark blue, the looks that he can get in the paint. The left corner, or the right corner for the player is a money spot for a JB with the 3-point shooting. And also the left elbow is really, really comfortable. That's a sweet spot for Brunson as well. Now, in terms of, last season, he did take charges as well. I think that's going to stay the same. He's going to, give it his all, lead by example while he's out there on the floor. What I want to see him maintain is be as aggressive, fam. Even if he's not putting up as many shots or scoring, the team will need Brunson to stay aggressive, because when push comes to shove, he's still our best shot creator. That's not going to change, right? We might have more help scoring, we might have better shooting, but he's still our best shot creator. And to put the defense on its heels, it's important that Brunson stays aggressive, right? Whether he still looks to penetrate and kick it out, or whether he still looks to penetrate and put up the floater, or navigate the screen and pull up from three, he has to stay aggressive, I think, to be that engine for the New York Knicks offensively. Luke says assists will go up. Absolutely agree. Buzzer says, I want Brunson to have more total assists by at least 150 or more. Yorkel, what's up? We went through the news with Mitchell Robinson and the future situation for the Knicks in the center position, and we've just started basically touching on Jaylen Bronson and the season ahead for him. Fam. Yeah, Brunson's durability, I think, will stay the same as well. And that's where we'll talk about the minutes. Do I want to see Brunson's minutes stay the same, or the load or role on this team stay the same? So he averaged 35 minutes, I think, last season, fam. The wishful thinking in me wants to see that drop a little because we do have more guys so we can play. But I don't think Tibbs is going to drop that much more, maybe 34. Again, when you want to win the regular season, which Tibbs wants to do, you want to play your best player as much as possible. Still going to help you win games. This is the NBA. You can't just take teams lightly, right? We're not just going to coast to 60 wins. You have to play your best players. So I think we'll expect Brunson's minutes to stay the same. 35, 36, 37 even, maybe 34, maybe a little dip. But I think his minutes will probably stay the same. However, back-to-backs, blowout wins. What do I want to see Tibbs adjust, man? Get Brunson out the game. No question about it, right? If we're up 13, we're up 16 with 6 minutes left. Brunson's on the bench and you're thinking, do I bring him on or not? And the Knicks can go on a little run, extend the lead out to 20, sit Brunson, don't need to bring him back on. Trust the guys to close the game out. Again, Dante DiVincenzo, 6th man of the year. He could carry the offense as well. Julius, we know, can do what he does. OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, there's plenty of guys. So, yeah, I think we might see a dip in Brunson's minutes just for the average if the Knicks are successful and we're blowing teams out. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out, fam. In terms of the role while he's on the court, I think he's still going to be the primary option. Again, he has to stay aggressive. But how much does he balance that? How much does he grow as a floor general leader, knowing that he can get his bread, but also set up his teammates and get them thriving as well? That's going to be the big challenge for Brunson this year. Because last season, it was no choice. It was, I'm the one that has to score. I'm the one that's got to put up buckets for us to win. Bodies were dropping like flies. But this time, it's a different story because Brunson has options. So he has to pick his poison. Do I stay aggressive and put up the floater? Do I kick it out? Do I take a back seat? Do I sit in the corner and let Julius and Mikal Bridges play some action more as well? He can do that. He can do whatever the coach wants or whatever he wants, basically. That's what top 5 MVPs do, They can carry a team. They can make their teammates better, Don't forget, Brunson does draw a lot of doubles. Randall is going to be on the floor now. He's going to be drawing doubles. That's going to free up Brunson. It's going to be an all-you-can-eat buffet, fam. We might see the most prettiest offense that we've seen since the 70s, right? Taking away the wins, losses, whether we get a championship or not, this could be the prettiest offense we get since the 70s. Because the 90s, we know, was a grind, right? The New York Knicks didn't win offensively, man. It was a Pat Riley. It was a battle of attrition. It was a bloody war in the 90s, and that was when the Knicks were most successful. Then we got Dan Toney. I guess the cup of coffee with Stoudemire, 30-point games. Gallinari, Wilson Chandler. That was pretty, but that was such a small sample. Then there was the Carmelo Anthony, Jason Kidd, kind of Carmelo Anthony, huge scoring, the scoring title that he won. But that was a Mike Woodson that was a Mike Woodson offense playing to his strengths. ISO ball, you know, ISO Joe, um, with Woody. But this season, with the personnel we have, this could be the prettiest offense I think the Knicks have had since maybe, the 80s or the 70s. With small ball, fast, we could play, the best shooting lineups as well. Obviously, with no Mitch, no Isaiah, you do have the option of trying to be more dynamic. I said it, I think, last show. I think D'Antoni would be a coach that would love to coach this team from an offensive standpoint, because I think we have the personnel. So in terms of the role, Brunson can be still the primary scorer, but I do think those assist numbers will go up, fam. Now his 3-point percentage, I think, could still go up even more. He shot an amazing 40.1% from three last season, fam. So that was amazing. The pull-up game has opened up the offense for this team. If Brunson was just a drive and kick kind of guy, like, who are some of the other point guard, maybe CP3 wasn't the greatest 3-point shooter. We would have to rely on a lot more Randall and a lot more other guys. But I think the fact that Brunson's 3-point shooting has really opened up his game, I think that's what's helped him get to, superstar levels. I think there is really fine margins, guys, between a star and a superstar. And I think the biggest jump is Brunson's 3-point shooting. So you're suddenly better than your prime CP3s because you can distribute, you can play tough, savvy, but you can shoot the three ball. You're better than Trae Young because you can shoot the three ball just as well, but you're better at defending. You're better at other parts of the game. You're better at the floater. You're better at, other things. So I think, Brunson will be a top, I think, he will continue for the next 5 years. He'll be a top 5 player in the league, top 5 MVP candidate, top 2 point guard in the game, probably a point where he's surpassed Steph Curry, in terms of current levels, and just in terms of, multifaceted play. I think isolation, shot creation, all of those things, man, is really, really special. Now, off the court stuff, man, he is the captain now. So JB is our captain, and there's going to be some bumps along the way, and you need a captain like him who's vocal. If there's a scuffle, he'll make sure guys don't get suspended. He'll try to pull them out. If there's a little bit of a losing tear, he'll obviously keep the spirits up. He'll demand more from the guys and make sure he's holding them accountable. He's the extension of Tibbs as well. Tibbs has always needed that point guard. He had Derrick Rose, obviously, and now he's got Jaylen Bronson. But Tibbs has always needed that point guard leader on the floor to steady it. He's not the best offensive coach, so he needs the point guard to make good decisions. So I think turnover to assist ratio was very strong. Last season it was, assists. It was 6.7 assists to 2.4 turnover ratio. So that's a very good. That's basically a 3-to-1. That's pretty much close to a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, fam. Maybe slightly higher. So very strong. He'll have the ball maybe less in his hands, so maybe those turnovers drop as well. If Brunson can average less than 2 turnovers and get those assists to be 6.57 assists, but less than 2 turnovers, you're looking at a supreme floor general, fam. So yeah, Buzzer says hit that like button, like and subscribe, appreciate it. Michael Drake says Jaylen Bronson will lead us to a championship. I think he will. I think it's coming. I think it's just a matter of, what year does it happen, man? What year in terms of the next few years? Buzzer says, does Randall remind anyone of Anthony Mason's offensive style? Yeah, bully ball. I think bully ball in the paint. I think Randall is going to be a huge force for us because, once again, there's a lot more guys that people have to pay attention to. And I think the doubles, Randall's assist numbers will go up as well, like I talked about too, fam. But let's talk a little bit about Jaylen Bronson's three-point attempts. So he hits 2.7 from 6.8 three-point attempts. I want those attempts to at least stay the same or go up, even if he's not shooting as much floaters or mid-range shots. Let that three ball fly, Brunson. I want to see Brunson push the limit to his three-point shot. Could it become Steph Curry levels where, he just becomes a lights out three-point shooter? He's only turned 28. He's just entering his prime. The three-point numbers have been going up every single year. This is the year to maybe push it and see, because that is going to absolutely open the floor up for everybody. And he could still be our best pull-up three-point shooter. He could be better than Mikal and OG from the starting five. Obviously, Dante will probably, remain the best three-point shooter in general. Yorkel says Brunson gonna get a lot of assists with Randall and Mikal on the floor. Don't need to score 40 a night anymore. That's a great point. Great point. Maybe we see less 40-point games. Maybe we just see more 25 and 8. Right. Maybe we see more triple doubles, fam, where it's 18, 11, and 10. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we see that more triple doubles. Look, even for a guard, he rebounds pretty solid. Almost 4 defensive rebounds. 3.1 defensive rebounds. Maybe you could hunt some more rebounds for us with Isaiah and Mitch out. It's going to be a team effort. Buzz's point about defense, he only averaged 1.9 fouls last season. That's exceptional, for the pressure on him and defensively, for him to play 35 minutes and average less than 2 fouls. That's discipline. That's discipline, fam. That's being on the court when your team needs you. Not getting into silly early foul trouble. I mean, God knows what would have happened if Brunson got early foul trouble last season and early in the ball game he had to, sit after a second foul. We would have probably, would have relied more on Deuce McBride, and he was ready. But Brunson was able to be, smart, I think, with his defense. Getting in position to draw the charges, but not reaching. Not reaching on those silly fouls, fam. Brunson was probably equally drawing as many fouls as he was giving up. Unconscious zone, absolute clutch in the playoffs, fam. Great to mention that. Clutch in the closing moments, playoff experience, another year wiser, another year more ready, thrives in the moment, took the deal, captain of the New York Knicks now, going to lead us to a championship. It's all written, man. It's in the script. Smart player, still growing, evolving, numbers are getting better. I think this season it could be top 3 MVP candidate. He's going to get more votes, Phil, because last season was a big leap, but it was like, the national media still sleeping. People are still sleeping on Jaylen Bronson, but I think this season that he's got the points on the board. He's been a first-time All-NBA, first-time All-Star. Everyone knows he's the number one option on a huge playoff team. I think he's just going to get more spotlight, more shine, and I think he will be maybe top 3 MVP. I think it's legit to think that if the Knicks finish first, in the East, or we finish second and then we make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, you could definitely make that case already that Brunson could be a top 3 MVP heading in. So yeah, is in terms of now a projection, looking ahead to the season, in an ideal world, I think I want Brunson's assists to go up, points maybe to drop a little, because, you know, there's just going to be more shots available for other guys, you know. Other guys need to get their looks to space the floor out. We can't be too predictable, you know. So I think it's striking that balance, fam, between knowing that, yeah, you have a point guard that's your best shot creator, but you also need to be mindful of other guys, you know, and getting them their, you know, their points and their opportunities, and just making sure that, yeah, the offense is flowing, man, like a well-oiled machine. So yeah, I'd love to see Bronson's assists to go up to 8. Right? If he could leap from 6.7 to 8 assists per game, which I think is very realistic. It's only an extra assist or two. Think about with the extra shooting that we have on the floor now, fam, with these guys, you know. I mean, especially the Dante lineup, as we bring that one up, right? I think outside of the Precious lineup, this could be the next most likely starting opening night starting lineup. Which is the Knicks just maybe just say, hey, Boston, get a look at our death lineup straight away, man. I mean, who are you putting out there at the 5? Luke Cornett. You know, it's going to be Al Horford, maybe Xavier Tillman. You mean to tell me that OG or Randall can't guard them? You know, I think offensively this is our best lineup, and Brunson could easily get 8 assists. I mean, Randall could get 10 assists as well, with his touches, paint touches as well. And that is a good point to make now. I think Randall and Brunson, you know, the two-headed monster, I think those two played really well off of each other. You know, there's some new pieces, but I think those two know what it takes to win. I think they'll both be ready, invested in how to get this thing going. You know, playing off of each other again, moving the ball quickly as the double comes, because I think the New York Knicks have a dual double team threat where both players could draw the double from the other team. You know, they will try to get the ball out of Brunson's hands, but when you got OG in the corner, Mikal, you've got Dante in the corners, Randall in the corners is money as well. Literally, the defense has to pick their poison, fam. And it's going to be a death by 1,000 cuts, I think. When the Knicks win the first seed, Brunson will win MVP, says Buzzer Beater. Yeah, that's a good shout. Unconscious Zone says it's the D that will win for us consistently. We were experimenting with it last Jan. Buzzer says, I think he can get to 9 assists if Halliburton can do it as well. Yeah, definitely, man. I think a lot of looks are going to come from... a lot of his assists will come from just kick-outs to the shooters. You know, and the shooting numbers as well. Don't forget, Brunson will actually get easier looks for himself offensively, because Mikal Bridges and Randall are very solid playmakers. Don't forget, Mikal Bridges was the number 1 usage guy on his team. He's coming in as the 3rd, 4th most usage player now. So he's going to get some on-ball reps. Off-ball movement is going to be key for this team, because if Mikal or Randall are the one facilitating, Brunson has the opportunity to cut back door. He has the opportunity to do what Steph Curry does, which is basically just run the defense tired, man. Non-stop player movement and non-stop ball movement. You know, when it comes to really stretching the defense out. I mean, you see, it's all good to say 5 guys space the floor out, but you can't just have all 5 guys just standing there. Right? It's too predictable. You need a blend of player movement, pick and roll or ball movement, backdoor cutting, fluidity when it comes to this engine, man. This could be the best offensive engine in the league. It absolutely could be. This rivals the Boston Death lineup, in my opinion. And so, like I said, players just can't stand there. They need to keep moving. If Brunson doesn't have the ball, I know he's going to, relocate. Let's say the ball gets tipped out. Remember, Tibbs does practice those plays. That infamous play in the Philly series where the Knicks got the DiVincenzo double bang. The Knicks practiced that play. Isaiah OG got the rebound, or Isaiah kicked it out to OG. Hockey pass, hockey assist to DiVincenzo at the top. Those guys knew what was happening. They got the ball and they kicked it out. They absolutely knew where to go once they got the ball in the right positions too. Michael says the best point guards for the Knicks, Clyde and Jaylen. That's elite company, man. That's elite company. I'm just excited the fact that, not only have we not been this good for this long, but it's been since Clyde, really, since we had a point guard at this level, right? In terms of where he's headed in his prime. I know we had Starberry, Felton was solid, Jason Kidd on his last leg, but Brunson's just 28, man. He just turned 28, and he signed an extension, health permitting. God permitting, he can stay healthy and just fulfill his potential, of giving us this production for the next 7 years. That's incredible, really. If you look at it, I mean, there's no reason to say that he can't perform at this high level until he's 34, 35. He's not based on athleticism, His game ain't based on, flashiness and athleticism like Allen Iverson, Derrick Rose. Shout out to Derrick Rose as well. He just got waived by Memphis, and people are speculating that he might retire now. So we might have seen the last of Derrick Rose in the NBA. So for those that don't know, yeah, Derrick Rose just got waived. He did talk about thinking about retirement after the Knicks cut him. Now the Memphis Grizzlies picked him up, and he was able to play, but now he's been cut again. And so, yeah, Brunson's, career, man, I think he could play at a very high level for a very long time right now. And so, man, it's going to result in a chip, hopefully multiple championships. Paula says, yeah, we didn't have Rod Strickland for long enough. Yorkel says Brunson's surrounded by shooters and his assists should average 10 this season like LeBron. I think he could if he wanted to. I think it's, as I said, he still has to stay aggressive offensively too to help us get the ball in the bucket. Buzzer, yeah, I took the words out of your mouth with Dante, the Dante play. Yeah, we need more plays like that. Yep, down the stretch. That's what continuity really helps with, fam, in terms of bringing guys back and practicing all the habits that Tibbs does, man. He's very meticulous in practice. Repetitious. We actually heard Deuce McBride talk about it on the Pat Bev pod. They run suicides still. They run all the defensive closeout drills as well, right? Stuff that's boring as for these players, these veterans, but Tibbs still does it because it's repetitious. So when the heat of the moment and it's crunch time, and the crowd is so loud you can't hear your teammates, everybody just knows where to be. Everybody knows what to do because they've practiced it. They've worked on it. And so it's just like a drill, really. I think a lot of our play this season, not to disrespect the opponent, but it's just going to be on us executing. Half the teams in the league are going to go south by trade deadline because you got a huge draft class. You got Brooklyn already showing what they're going to do. They're going to try to rebuild with all their picks. Utah, Washington, Detroit, Charlotte, Chicago, I think will be faced with a big decision, what to do. I think it's crazy. I think the Knicks could have the best offense in the league. User 2033 says the Knicks about to average 130, in Indiana style, I think. Yeah, could D Rose maybe, should he retire in Chicago as a nice send off, fam? Sign a 10-day with them, or sign a vet minimum. Be the end of the bench, fam. Yeah. What a second wind of a career though. Like, what a just to get off track a little bit, but to salute Derrick Rose. If he does officially retire, we'll salute him, because yeah, he's definitely one of my favorite Knicks, having a two chapter Knicks career. But what a second chapter to D Rose's career after the knee injury, and then absolutely becoming a huge factor on different teams, making the playoffs and stuff. But what could have been, he could have definitely gone down as one of the greatest point guards ever, and still might go down as one of the greatest ever, even with all those injuries and stuff. But as we, I'll say a few final words on the Brunson preview, but obviously preseason's going to be big now with this Mitch news, guys. So we have options to plan now. We've got Charlotte, Washington, Minnesota, Charlotte, and Washington again before opening night. And so we're going to be able to experiment with these different lineups. We're going to be able to get, whoever it is ready. Precious, Sims, Randall, mentally prepared, physically prepared, that's training camp, and fitness, but mentally prepared to be the 5 and play proper lineups, small ball, different lineups in preseason. The one thing about this Mitch thing is that it's come at least with advance. When Mitch went down in the season, it was like basically it was sudden, and the next day we had to pick it up and keep playing. The difference right now is that we all know that Mitch ain't going to be ready. He ain't going to be available until at least December period. The trade, options will be available at that stage with the newly signed contracts. But obviously January things heat up a lot more before the trade deadline officially. And so, the New York Knicks will be able to see how things look in preseason. If things look really funky, if things don't look great, that could influence the decision to make something happen before the season begins. There's still some free agents out there. There's still some insurance policies that we could get. They might not be great options, but there's still insurance. But the biggest takeaway is that the New York Knicks feel okay. They feel confident that they have enough versatility and options, I think, to get by. I think Mook should make the roster. I think that'll definitely help the situation at power forward, fam. Yorkel says, CT, do you think the Nets franchises help the Knicks get better because competition in the city? We need to thank the Nets then. You could look at it like that. I guess the pressure came a little bit more when it was fresh. When I think that day is past now, but when Jay-Z, they put up the whole billboard and blueprint for greatness. The Knicks were competing. That did make us sort of go out and get Melo. We got Stoudemire. The Nets were, I know, looking at Melo as well. They end up getting Deron Williams, and we got Melo. I think, but really, it wasn't really much competition on the court. It was a Knicks town, always will be, fam. But I think the presence in the city does help. I don't think it's a real rivalry, but I think that it keeps everything more. I think keeps things more serious. Having another team in the same city versus not having that team. But I don't think it's anything like right now with the Clippers and the Lakers, where the Clippers are very competitive or more competitive. But it's yet to be that point, I think. It's always been the Brooklyn Nets were good and we weren't as good when they had KG and that. And now it's like the Brooklyn Nets are awful and we're good. Both teams have never really been good at the same time. You know, so I think I think it's not really a real rivalry just yet. But in terms of Brunson, right, it's certainly not a rivalry in terms of, best player in the city, and we have Bridges now. We took their best player and they're going to try to rebuild now. It's going to be interesting to see. If Brooklyn Nets get Cooper Flag, that's going to be huge for them, right? They're going to try to lose as many games, fam, and it's going to be Cam Thomas show. If you are a betting man, look at Cam Thomas for some of those, stats, and parlays, But for Brunson, man, I think All-Star again, All NBA first team, go one better. All NBA first team, All-Star, top 3 MVP, right? MVP race is always subjective, so it's hard to say that he's going to be better than Joker and Giannis and Embiid and that. But once again, if we're the number 1 seed, you have to have him as kind of the favorite, just like Jason Tatum was kind of there as well. How are we going to start the season? Health is big. 77 games. I look at that. I'm like, I take that, man. If I could guarantee Brunson plays 77 out of 82, I would sign up for that right now. I think that might have included playoffs as well, though. So obviously he did miss a few regular season games, but does Tibbs even flirt with sitting Brunson on a back-to-back? Like, let's say we're, for example, let's say, guys, we're 10-1, or we are 22-5. We're absolutely rolling, humming, and we're number 1 seed. We're 22 wins, 5 losses, and we're back-to-back in Charlotte. We're back-to-back in Detroit, right? Brunson played 36 minutes the night before, right? And it's kind of that game where it's, there's always that chance that, it could be a letdown game. But does Tibbs evolve and just say, maybe they make something up, a little bit of load management. Brunson has a sore right thumb, and they're not going to risk him. Do they end up just saying, we're confident now, we're confident. Deuce McBride can start, DiVincenzo can play a lot more as well. We've got Payne. We'll talk about those guys in the next shows. That could be key. I don't know if we'll see it. I think Brunson's that kind of guy where if he's healthy, he'll want to play. But yeah, that could be something that we end up seeing this season that we haven't yet previously under Tibbs. We've never had the luxury of ever being able to even think that way, fam. If you look at our roster now, fam, it's always been, we need Brunson to win. But now, yes, we need him to win a chip, but we don't need him every night, I think, to win regular season minutes, regular season games, fam. That's some of the reasons I love these moves on the margins, because they do help in the long run, Signing your veterans, Payne, Landry Shamet, Mook Morris, those guys can come in and give you real minutes, Some of them at different parts of their careers, they're not starters, they're not heavy rotation players, but they are guys that could give you 12 minutes, 14 minutes of production, and know, they've been around and they can hold their own, So I think, that is really, really key. And I think, this season, man, it's going to be fun, right? So as we get ready to wrap this baby up, man, what a show and what a bit of news it's been today. As we talked about the situation with Mitchell Robinson and him missing time to start the year and the Knicks options, right? I think we will stay pat, right? And yes, I feel better about some of our options and not very good about some. We'll see which one Tibbs goes with. I think Precious should start. Precious, maybe Sims, start with a traditional big man, maybe throw in some small ball throughout the ball game. But we'll see, man. We've got plenty of time to play around in the preseason and see how it all looks, fam. But the main thing is that we now know what we're working with too. So we've got the two big previews done and dusted now with Brunson and Randall. And training camp media day, fam, is coming up next week, right? So we're going to get through these previews. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a show combined with OG Mikal Bridges next, right? It's going to be the combined wings of Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby season previews. Then I'll be focusing on the Hart DiVincenzo and Deuce McBride's, right? The solid role players from last season, and then we'll work on some situationals as well. And then we'll probably continue to talk about the big man options as well. So yeah, next show will be the wings, right? The wings about to take flight in the Mecca. OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, the best wing combination in the league. They have a lot to prove, you know. Don't think that they don't have stuff to prove, man. OG wants to show that he's worth every bit of the $42 million. Mikal Bridges is coming from a losing team. He wants to prove that he is the difference between the Knicks winning a championship and not. These guys have a lot to prove as well. And don't forget, Mikal Bridges is vying for a contract extension as well. So there's nothing more dangerous than a player in a contract situation. I think the New York Knicks wings will be primed to have a big season, I think, fam. So, as always, appreciate you guys in the chat. Everyone buzzing with us too, and Replay Squad got us held down. Like and subscribe on the post. Share the video as well. Anyone that's a New York Knicks fan, let them know that we're buzzing over here. And I appreciate everyone for supporting. And yeah, it's been a positive show to end on, and obviously tough to start on the news, but we'll get by, man. Next man up mentality. I just think it's make or break for a lot of these options for Mitch this season, for Jericho, and I think the Knicks will be eyeing that long-term solution now without Isaiah here. Those days are gone, and Mitch, we can't depend on him for 82, but I still think he has plenty left. He's still young and he can be a factor for us. So we'll see, fam. But peace, everyone. Orange and blue skies. We'll be back later in the week with the next episode. Brunson done now. It'll be Bridges and OG. Peace.